This just in.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to another news update. 49ers making some moves during an off day. Normally, the San Francisco 49ers would be practicing on a Wednesday, and we'd have more information about some of the injuries that have come forth. But we don't have that in this situation. What we have is a situation where the 49ers made a move with a defensive tackle. They placed defensive tackle Kalia Davis on the injured reserve. It is something that we kind of thought was possible. An injury like this, a high ankle sprain, usually means 4 to 6 weeks potentially that you are out. And so Kalia Davis, another member of this 49ers rotation, is done for the regular season for sure, and maybe even further than that. He may not come back this season. This could end his season for the San Francisco 49ers. And it's been an interesting season, right? He made the active 53-man roster. He was the fifth man. Most of the time, he was inactive for most games. Once the 49ers started to have some injuries to their top two defensive tackles, then he became active. He got his first playing time against Philadelphia. That wasn't that long ago. It was the first part of December, and he had 19 snaps. He had the best pass rush rate at 72.3%, and he played pretty well. Now, since then, we've seen a little bit of a decline in his production and a decline in what he's been able to do on the field. More reps, more different situations have led to less a good play from Kalia Davis. But there's still a lot to like about the young player. Got a lot of development that still needs to be done. He was a linebacker in college for most of his career. He did a switch to defensive line late, then suffered an injury that made him unable to perform last season as a rookie. So this is really his rookie season. He spent all of last year on the NFI, and this was his first year getting some time. So Kalia Davis' season cut short due to an ankle injury. And with the question marks surrounding the guys up front, Javon Hargrave and Eric Armstead, that means the 49ers are probably in the mix to find a defensive tackle. And the 49ers worked out several guys. Now, it's not the names that you would expect, right? Ndamukong Suh met with the Miami Dolphins today. No deal is imminent, but he was there for a visit. 49ers could definitely get in on that. Ndamukong Suh has said that he's wanting and willing to sign with a contending team. So Ndamukong Suh is not out of the question, but it doesn't look like the 49ers, as of right now, are willing to make that move. But they did work out 4 defensive tackles today. They worked out Eric Banks, formerly of Texas San Antonio. They worked out Michael Dogby of Temple. Of course, these guys have been in the league. These are the colleges they worked out for. Taylor Stallworth, formerly of South Carolina, and Daniel Wise, formerly of Kansas. Now, I went and watched all of these players, got a little bit of a glimpse of them, not a lot of tape, just a little bit, just to get an idea of what style of players they are. And every single one of them are attackers. They're guys who get behind the line of scrimmage and look to make plays in the backfield. They're all a little bit more undersized, more athletic, kind of what you would get from a Kalia Davis, from a T.Y. McGill, from a Kevin Givens. That is the kind of player that the 49ers have worked out. Not the big run stopper like Ndamukong Suh, but it could also mean that these guys are likely getting a little bit of a tryout for the 49ers practice squad. The 49ers end up just elevating T.Y. McGill to fill Kalia Davis' spot. That could mean they need to fill his spot on the practice squad. So there is a potential for T.Y. McGill to come up. Of course, the 49ers still have 2 other defensive linemen on their practice squad. They have Alex Barrett. He's been with the 49ers for years on the practice squad, and he's there. He's got a little bit of versatility. He can play defensive end and defensive tackle. And then they've got Spencer Wagee, who they signed as an undrafted free agent out of North Dakota State, and a lot of people were very high on him in training camp. It did not work out for him. They eventually waived him, and then at some point during the season, they brought him back to continue his development. So they do have options at the defensive tackle spot, but when it comes down to it, the 49ers are looking now to go outside of their organization, whether that's for depth or an eventual starter. And there are players still available. I brought up Ndamukong Suh. He could be a difference maker. I was listening to KMBR, and I was listening to Greg Papa, and he said Ndamukong Suh may be an option. And he even pointed out the fact that Lynch and Shanahan had told him last year they were more interested in bringing in Ndamukong Suh originally than Christian McCaffrey. And we know it came down last year to Ndamukong Suh deciding between the 49ers and the Eagles. He felt he made the right decision by going with the Eagles. Well, now this year, it's a whole different bag. The 49ers beat the Eagles. They've beat the Cowboys. If you're looking to go for a contender, the 49ers could be the best possible landing spot for Ndamukong Suh. They just have to make sure they have the guys available and ready to play this week against the Baltimore Ravens, because the Baltimore Ravens offensive line will absolutely eat the 49ers defensive line if they do not have a steady rotation. If Armstead and Hargrave are not back, Kinlaw and Givens will do well. But after that, the depth, you really have to worry about it. So 49ers got to make some moves. Of course, with all things, John Lynch and the rest of that front office is looking ahead, making sure that they don't have any financial risk down the road. They still want to keep this team together and intact. You can't go spend a lot of money on free agency, but this might be the time. If you feel Armstead or Hargrave are not going to be back for Baltimore, or they're not going to be back for the rest of the regular season, you need to go out there and you need to get a player that can play. I'm not sure the four guys we mentioned earlier, Banks, Dogby, Stallworth, or Wise, are an answer to your active roster problems. And I'm not sure T.Y. McGill is either. If T.Y. McGill is just going to be a fifth guy that just in case something happens to one of those top four, then I'm okay with it. That's an experienced player who's been in the league for a long time and been inside the 49ers organization for 2 years. But if not, I see players out there that are available that make more sense. Ndamukong Suh, Michael Brockers, Maurice Hurst. I mean, those are just to name a few. But we'll see what the 49ers ultimately do. And I brought up earlier that the San Francisco 49ers normally practice on Wednesday. Well, their schedule's a little bit different this week. They had the day off today. They'll be returning to practice on Thursday. That's tomorrow, 11:35 a.m. Kyle Shanahan will talk to the media. That's the hot ticket item. We'll get a good idea of how the injuries are looking for those interior defensive linemen. So pay attention to that. 1:25 practice. Then Friday, they're practicing at 1. That's when we get to hear from Steve Wilks, Chris Forster, and Brock Purdy. And then on Saturday, they're going their walkthrough, and Kyle Shanahan will talk at 1:35. That's when we'll get a really good idea of who's going to be able to play on Monday night. So normally the media availability and press conferences and stuff don't always mean a lot. You get some tidbits here and there. But when it comes to the injuries, we can learn a lot about it as these injury designations start coming through. So the news is Kalia Davis on the IR. The 49ers are on the hunt for a defensive tackle. Will it be a young player that they worked out, a guy who's been around the league for a while, like some of these guys are well-traveled, or will it be a big name like Ndamukong Suh? We'll find out. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. 49ers Cutback on Believe. And of course, this is the news update. I'll try to keep you updated on all the news that come for the San Francisco 49ers. But until then, stay safe. And remember, the right way is always the 49ers.